Not every haunting hides in an abandoned asylum or shuttered hospital. Sometimes it waits in plain sight, painted white, standing tall, and drawing tourists every day. St. Augustine's lighthouse looks peaceful, but behind the brick and glass is a legacy of tragedy and something that never left. These stories are real accounts from staff, visitors, and security, people who came for the view and left with something they couldn't explain. So keep watching and like and subscribe to the channel, because some lights don't guide you, they lure you in. The St. Augustine Lighthouse, admired by tourists for its architectural grace and sweeping views, harbors a much darker presence that emerges only when the crowds disperse and silence settles over its grounds. When the sun sets and the light goes still, the lighthouse's true history begins to surface. Before the current structure existed, a much older wooden lighthouse stood closer to the shoreline in the 1700s. Over time, erosion and sea encroachment eventually claimed that original tower, but not before it claimed a man's life. He was either a keeper or a maintenance worker. Accounts vary, but what remains consistent is how he fell to his death from near the top of the tower while working without any safety restraints. Some witnesses claimed he died instantly upon impact, while others insisted he lay broken on the rocks, his life ebbing away slowly as he waited in vain for help that never arrived. Today, long after the original structure has disappeared, visitors who walk the surrounding shoreline during low tide report sightings of a shadowy figure that seems to pace the exact footprint of where the old tower once stood. Descriptions vary slightly, but many describe a hunched figure, limping and dragging 1 foot, as though its bones never healed from the fall. It never speaks, never makes eye contact, and never acknowledges anyone watching from a distance. The land, it seems, remembers the first life it took. In 1871, during the construction of the new tower, a man named Hezekiah Pitti was hired as the site superintendent and relocated his entire family to the lighthouse grounds. His daughters, Eliza and Mary, along with a young servant girl, frequently played in and around the construction site, often riding a large metal supply cart that traveled along tracks stretching from the docks to the lighthouse foundation. What began as an innocent game turned fatal one summer afternoon in 1873, when the cart broke loose from its resting point and careened down the tracks uncontrollably. Witnesses later said the girls were laughing at first, treating the descent like a joyride, until the screams started. By the time anyone could react, the cart had plunged into the bay, and though one child was pulled out alive, the other 2 were not so fortunate. Their small bodies were found downstream, lifeless, tangled in marsh plants and silt. Since that day, and especially after the keeper's home was restored into a museum, staff members, guests, and even trained security have reported frequent, inexplicable phenomena that all seem to circle back to those girls. Visitors have described hearing high-pitched laughter echoing in empty stairwells, doors slamming with no wind or human cause, and faint giggling coming from behind closed rooms when no tours are in session. On freshly cleaned floors, small barefoot prints often appear out of nowhere, too small to belong to any adult, and always vanish before they reach the exit.
The tour guide was saying that door on the left-hand side opens and closes, and there's shadow figures that come rushing into this room.
On multiple occasions, motion detectors placed throughout the stairwell have been triggered repeatedly, but when staff members check the tower, it is completely empty. However, surveillance footage later revealed a faint child-sized silhouette hovering just above the banister, as if something too light to leave prints was watching from the shadows.
Pitti girls are known to be the most active spirits here at the lighthouse. They are known to untie and retie shoelaces.
Apparently they're like pranksters. They're very mischievous.
Long before the tragic accident that claimed the Pitti children, there had already been a death at the lighthouse. In the 1850s, a lighthouse keeper named Joseph Andreu was carrying out routine maintenance, painting the outside of the tower with whitewash, when he slipped and fell. His body hit the ground so hard that his bones shattered, and witnesses later said that the blood remained visible on the dirt for days, baking beneath the punishing Florida sun. He was buried not far from the tower, but those who work within its walls believe that his spirit never left. Even now, several employees report the persistent scent of cigar smoke within the tower, even though smoking is strictly prohibited anywhere on the premises. One night, guard recalled witnessing a tall man wearing an old-style blue jacket slowly ascending the staircase, pausing on every third step with the kind of caution that suggests pain or age. When the guard followed up to ask if he needed help, the man vanished at the landing, leaving no trace. His name was never spoken aloud, but the staff understood exactly who he was. The tower does not forget the ones who died serving it. Beneath the restored keeper's house lies a stone basement, built from dense coquina rock and intentionally sealed off to the public. Even during daylight hours, the room remains unnaturally cold and absent of sound, a void where even footsteps seem to vanish before they reach your ears. Staff members assigned to clean or inspect the area have reported unsettling sensations, an oppressive weight pressing on their chest, invisible eyes watching from corners, and low growls echoing from nowhere.
Oh, okay.
One janitor, who now refuses to re-enter the space, claimed he once saw a tall, distorted shadow stretch along the ceiling and rise directly from the wall. He dropped his flashlight in fear, and when he picked it back up, the temperature in the room had plummeted. Thermometers confirmed a drop of more than 20 degrees in less than a minute. Paranormal researchers believe the basement serves as a kind of spiritual conduit, absorbing the traumas of everyone who's ever suffered or died on the land above it. Electronic voice phenomena recordings captured in the room include the unmistakable sounds of children sobbing and, more disturbingly, faint voices whispering, "We're still down here."
Wait, whoa!
Where is going up to the wind that hit red? Oh!
Oh my god!
See, and then, dude, I'm not even moving it.
Oh my god, dude!
What?
In the main tower itself, numerous accounts describe a woman in a long black dress seen silently walking the spiral staircase. Her face is always turned away or obscured, often by strands of wet, dark hair. One guide recounted seeing her from the ground level and assumed she was a late guest who had wandered away from her group. The woman didn't respond to calls or questions. She just kept climbing, step after step, at a constant, unnatural pace. When the guide reached the top to meet her, the platform was empty. There is no exit up there, no place to hide, and yet no trace remains of the woman. Local legends suggest she could be the grieving mother of the Petit girls, whose sorrow anchored her spirit here, forever condemned to climb. Others believe she was the wife of a keeper lost at sea, who ascended the tower nightly in vain, waiting for a ship that never returned. Whatever her origin, she's seen again and again, always climbing, always silent.
The music box is going off. The music box is going off. Hello?
Within the keeper's residence, a small side room has gained a disturbing reputation. In the early 1900s, an assistant keeper, overwhelmed with grief after losing his wife during childbirth, allegedly suffered a complete mental collapse. With no mental health resources or relief from the isolating demands of the job, he locked himself inside that very room and ended his life, either by hanging or by ingesting a lethal chemical mixture. Today, that room is used only for storage, but even brief visits inside leave volunteers rattled. Some emerge with unshakable feelings of sadness, while others report sensations of chest compression, as if the very air within the room has turned against them. A paranormal investigator collapsed mid-session and began sobbing uncontrollably upon waking. Perhaps most chillingly, a night guard reviewing security footage once spotted a man standing perfectly still at the window. No motion detectors had been triggered. The figure simply appeared, stood, and then disappeared between frames. When the room was checked the next morning, the old wooden chair inside had been dragged several feet across the floor leaving no marks and no prints. Across the property, guests have reported disembodied whispers brushing past their ears. Sometimes it's just a single word. Other times, it's a full sentence carried by no one. On a school tour, one child asked about the lady on the stairs, even though the only people present were classmates and instructors. EVP sessions have recorded chilling lines such as "Stay here, I feel, and play with me."
I was there.
Now what? Hey! Holy fine.
One visitor said she felt a cold hand close around her ankle as she descended the stairs. When she looked down, she was alone, but her skin had red, finger-shaped marks for hours afterward. Despite being fully automated, the lighthouse's massive Fresnel lens occasionally flickers on outside of scheduled activation times. There were no power surges and no technical errors, just a sudden, bright spin of the light, sometimes for a full rotation, before it powers down again on its own. One evening, multiple fishermen witnessed the lens engage after hours, and behind the glass, a human-shaped figure stood perfectly still, watching over the city. No one had entered the tower. The doors had been locked. The observation deck was confirmed empty, yet someone or something had returned to finish their shift. The spirits that reside in the St. Augustine Lighthouse don't always stay behind. On rare occasions, visitors have claimed that something follows them home. One woman, who scoffed at the ghost tour and joked about the stories, woke up that night in her hotel to the unmistakable sound of furniture scraping across the floor. Her room was empty, yet her chair had moved several feet. Back at her home days later, she continued to hear whispers. Her lights would flicker at random, and her pets behaved as if something else occupied the room. On the 7th night, she opened her eyes in the dark, and standing at the foot of her bed was a small girl in a soaking wet blue dress. The figure vanished without a sound. The woman never returned to St. Augustine. So was it all a coincidence? Or did the lighthouse want to be seen? Let us know what you believe in the comments. And if real stories like this, where history bleeds into horror, keep you coming back, make sure to like, subscribe, and tap the bell icon. And check out other videos on the channel, because some places weren't built to keep people safe. They were built to keep something in.